welcome to Going Native. This is a series of interviews which are a little bit special in the sense that the guests are Catalans, but they have to do the interview in English. And tonight our first guest is somebody who, well, is a friend, but somebody who also will have no trouble in talking about all sorts of subjects. We're going to talk about a lot tonight, Miquel Berga from the Universitat Pompeu Fabra, a specialist in the Spanish Civil War, and president of APAC, no? The Catalan Teachers Association.
Absolutely.
That's a lot, Miquel.
Oh.
That's a lot. Where'd you find the time?
I don't know.
Because there's also some other things we've got to talk about later as well, about your involvement in this television station, for example, no?
Well, whatever. Isn't it amazing that here we are in a Catalan TV station, broadcasting in English.
In English, yeah.
All of a sudden.
No, but that's why, you know, I think that these interviews could be interesting, and you're setting the tone because today's the first one.
Really?
Yes. And one of the things I want to do in these interviews with the very interesting people I'll have over the next few weeks is, obviously, how is it that you got to this point where you can speak English, you can do an interview in English like this? What's your relationship with the language?
Well,
where did it begin?
Well, if I can do it, we'll have to see. But yeah, we'll try. No, I started having an involvement with the English languages, if that is what you are curious about.
I am, yeah.
In, shall we say, my younger years. That's a few years ago. That
Not
was
so long, surely.
That was in the early 70s when I actually, for a number of reasons that we won't get now into detail, I did travel to London, and the interesting thing actually was that I had no English at all. So
you went without speaking a word?
Without English. I think I knew an interesting expression. For some reason, I knew one thing. I could say, "It doesn't matter." For some reason, I knew that expression. That came very handy because through the help of a friend who was working with charter flights, I got on a plane as a stowaway. I mean,
as a stowaway?
Absolutely. So this guy said, "Look, there's this plane that is taking off from Girona Airport, landing somewhere in London." It was the first time in my life that I saw a plane from the inside.
It sounds like you were running away from something.
No, I wasn't running away. Like he said, I was just trying to get a free flight to London. And he said, you let everybody into the plane, and by the end, an empty seat will appear. So you go and sit there, you know. So I sat there, and I couldn't say anything. I was surrounded. It was a charter flight, so everybody, they were all English or British citizens. Flight to the Costa Brava and so on. So I was there, in the middle of a family, and they tried to say something to me at one point. I think I understood later that they were trying to say, "Could you move to another seat and let our family be together?" There were two kids. But the only thing I could say was, "It doesn't matter." So they definitely thought, that I was a very dangerous. I imagine there was no more conversation during the trip, and I was there, until I reached Heathrow Airport.
And so what was the experience like, living in such a big foreign city without any
well,
English? I suppose you learn quickly?
It throws light sometimes into the curious and strange ways of learning languages. But I mean, I don't know if I would recommend that to anyone. But yes, I took that. For example, I noticed that everybody in London, when they, at least in those days, they had a newspaper when they were traveling in the bus or in the underground. So I thought, okay, apparently I have to get the newspaper.
Okay.
And I kept pretending to read the newspaper. And one day, I learned, Spain or England, or the other day, and looking at adverts and things like that. And
you slowly picked it up.
Slowly you picked up things, but certainly you go into the famously called silent period for a number of months. And then all of a sudden you feel more comfortable and so on.
And so what happened next? How did you go from being somebody who'd sneaked into England to becoming, you know, a sort of a professor of English literature? Because there's quite a process going on there.
No, I sometimes wonder. Yeah, no, the fact is that I spent 1 year and 3 months in from that first trip.
Because that was something that gave you a taste for it or something, and then after that you...
Well, it gave me taste, but by the end of 1 year and 3 months, I took my proficiency exam in English.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So I was a good student. You
Wow.
know, I did study English there for the, you know, and I managed to get the proficiency after 1 year and 3 months. So that was, in the end, it became the, you know, the big asset of that experience for. So, and then I came back, and when I got back here, I started studying what was called English philology at the time. And all that, you know, and that's how I started some sort of an academic life and a teaching life, not only in the university but also in secondary school.
So I suppose you've got, I mean, doing what you do, you've got, having experienced what you did over there, for example, you've got quite a strong connection with Anglo-Saxon culture, and I suppose you've got a special perspective on that then. A little bit.
Well, I feel, yes, I know what you mean, and you must have something similar about
with Catalan culture, exactly. Yeah.
It did become, because that experience was when I was in 19, 20, 21. That stay in London, it really became a kind of how should we call that? A kind of sentimental education, and even political education. I you know, don't forget that we are still talking about the times when Franco was in power in Spain. So for a young person, you know, suddenly experiencing democratic life in Britain was a kind of great discovery in many ways. So I have always felt, you know, a very strong, almost sentimental, and also political link and cultural, of course, with British things.
But would you say you had like an affinity for it, or
I don't know whether
if you'd have gone to Paris, it would have been the same, but with French, or you don't know?
I don't know if I, you know, it was. I just got things from that kind of immersion in British culture. Of maybe I was a bit like that, and I find it easy to relate to them. But I learned, for example, things that I have always admired and feel that, you know, I love sometimes. I wish people here, we Catalans, would have some of the, for example, the capacity of the English people or British people for understatement, for example.
Okay.
When I see my compatriots here now and then, or my colleagues in academia being so stiff and rigid and thinking that they are so big and important, unable to make people laugh to begin with. I think that that's not serious. And then you see this.
Well, I just wish people here would learn to queue properly. Yeah. No, because it's very simple. Everybody stands in a line. The person who arrived first stands at the front. The person who arrived last stands at the end. You don't move. And if you move, somebody can substitute you maybe while you go off and come back. That's the only movement. There's no need to move. But here there's a general milling about of people, and no one knows who's first, and everyone's claiming to be ultime, and it's terrible.
I see you're getting depressed, yes. That's very difficult, I remember when queuing in my young days in London, and you saw all this, you know, well-ordered queue, and then we young Mediterranean people, whether we were Italians or Spaniards or
shouting.
Well, and getting into the bus in front of their own noses, you know, seeing how we, you know, that was a. And the other big thing about British culture, certainly for me, it's been this the feel for irony, humor. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, the humor.
There is nothing comparable. I think English humor is a great cultural contribution to the world.
Possibly.
Because through humor and through irony, there comes toleration, there comes capacity for exchanging views, you know.
I think the ability to put your own thing second and by making fun of yourself and so on.
This, I think, we cannot do without English humor in this world of ours.
Yeah, it's a good contribution. So, talking about contributions to the culture, we need to talk about these projects you've got going on televisió El Pont Avui.
My God, I forgot.
And I'm just a bit careful that we'll finish and we won't have time to talk about them.
Okay.
But you're the man behind. Well, hopefully people will have just watched two programs which you are with the main impulse behind them.
Yeah.
The first one was The Class, which follows a group of young children in English lessons at school. And the other one was Storytime, which involved teachers from the Young Learner Centres of the British Council.
Yeah, hopefully viewers have seen this program just before or the day before or whatever.
But why don't you explain a little bit about all of that, where it came from and where we are?
I'm very excited about that. I think it's a very interesting thing if it works.
Yeah.
The idea behind that, it's not about tricks about teaching or learning English and so on.
It's not at that.
Everything will happen in English because we are putting the cameras inside an English classroom in a public school. People think that the classroom is an enclosed place, but in fact it's public space.
It is.
So suddenly we put the cameras inside the classroom, but the interesting, and we basically, we get 15 minutes for TV to show on TV out of a 50-minute class, okay? So there is some editing, but there's no previous script of any kind. And the other big thing is that what we are documenting from the line of the children's eyes, the pupils' eyes. I mean, the teacher happens to be there.
These are, how old are they? 5, 6?
5, 6.
Right.
So for one thing,
Very
you know,
young.
5 and 6, but their faces.
Yeah.
It's not like ours. We old people. We have no
yourself.
interest for the camera or the TV or whatever. But look at 5 and 6 years old. Everything comes from their own expression in the face. And the idea is that we will document, as it were, life, the dynamics of a group of children, life in the school, life surrounding the school, you know, and all that by accumulation.
So will we get to see like parents or other teachers or other pupils, or is that what you mean by
yes,
by what's surrounding it?
Or the neighbors around the school.
So it's not purely in the classrooms. It follows the children in their general sort of experience.
I'd like to put it like that. It follows, hopefully, the joys and also the pains of learning. It follows the incredible, energy and effort that a teacher puts into making 5 and 6 years old, you know, to learn a foreign language. All the repetition involved with that. You know? But visually, I hope it will be interesting because you will see how these children cope, not with learning English only, but with that
developing
that deeply human experience of learning, learning. So I'm very happy with it.
Are you a little bit nervous though about, because I mean, it's one, if there's no script and you don't know, obviously they tell actors never work with animals and children because you never know what they're going to do and how it's going to. There must be some nervousness about how this is going to develop.
It is certainly a risky and challenging project. But and I must say that the school, the Department of Education have not been worried about putting barriers to letting, as it were, to have this eye inside the guts of the system. That I appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very inspirational in many aspects. But it's certainly risky, and it's an act of political, openness and all that. It's like we are used to see series in hospitals. They are also public hospitals, but then they have scripts and all that, and it's all prepared. Here it's, let's see what happens. Let's see if what comes out is meaningful. Let's see if characters emerge from a group of 5 and 6 years. Sure. They will, I hope. Yeah.
Oh, well, that sounds very interesting. Hopefully people will watch that.
Yeah. Will you watch that? Yeah.
I will, certainly. Yeah, of course I will. And followed by story time, which is something a little different.
Well, it's a sort of complement to this first program. It's called Story Time. We are the stories we tell. We are the stories we are told. I mean, storytelling, don't you think? Storytelling is how we build our identity. So storytelling is very important in learning and in every aspect of life.
That's true.
And so what we have is, as a kind of complement, we'll have in this case, a native speaker. The teacher in the series is a Catalan teacher of English, but in this case, a native narrators, as it were, people who work in the Young Learners Center of the British Council in Barcelona. And what we do basically is just put the camera in front of the face and, you know, tell me story and see what happens. So each of these narrators, again, they will tell the stories they like. It's not a commission to say, oh, you must do that. No. We just want to hear the stories they really feel inspired by something.
And so these stories, they might well be some of them appeal to smaller children, some to older children, maybe even some to adults, or to anybody.
Well,
it depends on.
I think both the stories and the class will appeal to adults. What, you know, adults all of a sudden in Catalonia will have a chance to see, you know, to be inside a classroom. I think that is, you know...
It's a privilege because you don't get to...
Exactly. I can imagine parents being very interested in what happens inside the classroom.
Well, it seems to me something that would be possibly more interesting to adults than to children, to be honest with you.
Exactly. For children, it has that important mirror effect, you know.
Yeah.
They see themselves there, and that is, you know, appealing to them, usually. But as you say, I quite agree with that. I hope that the adults will find it very significant and revealing. And,
No, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Listen, we haven't got much time. Before you go, George Orwell, the Civil War. I would like to get a few ideas about that, because I'm a massive fan of the Spanish Civil War and George Orwell as well.
Really?
In fact, as time goes by, I think he's going to be seen as a more and more important writer in general.
Yeah.
But there was one thing I was thinking of, is George Orwell's associated with Catalonia and vice versa. Who's gained the most from that relationship? Does George Orwell gain the most from it, or does Catalonia gain the most from it?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and the answer is definitely both. The experiences of Orwell in Catalonia, as reflected especially in a book, Homage to Catalonia, were crucial. They gave a sharpness and a focus both to his literary skills and to his political views.
In fact, especially that, no? Because in that book, there becomes a point where he radically changes his...
Of course, well...
By seeing how it works and how the theory works in practice.
He took a crash course, an intensive course about the Stalinism in Barcelona in 1937, and that turned him into a precocious anti-Stalinist. Many intellectuals have never forgiven him for being too precocious, you know, about that issue, and so on. But anyway, he had, yes, a political epiphany in Catalonia in many ways. That without that, 1984 would have never been
Imagine.
1984 is the direct result of this experience.
Well, thank God he came here then. It's a fantastic book.
Well, many Russian academics in conferences and things that sometimes say, oh, but we always thought that George Orwell was a pseudonym. It was a pseudonym, but they thought it was a pseudonym from a citizen from Russia, a Russian citizen.
Because
how
so
else
well...
could he understood so well?
Yeah.
And my answer was, it was enough with, you know, a couple of weeks in Barcelona. You know, you learn everything about the Stalinism. So that was very important. But on the other hand, I mean, our debt to Orwell, Catalonia, I mean, has never been paid. He's got a square these days that was there because of Mayor Pasqual Maragall, but there is still so little. I mean, you know, Homage to Catalonia, the title of a book universally known, from Peru to Japan. Today you would find it in all the bookshops in the world still. I mean, how many thousands of people have either come to Catalonia because it was that chronotopos, that ideal place, Catalonia, that came out of their reading of the book. So, you know, it's been how do you call that, a publicity, one of these campaigns.
Yes,
it's impossible to, you know, it would be so expensive for the Generalitat to project the idea of Catalonia, just making adverts, you know.
Well, maybe we could start a campaign to get a statue of him or something.
You think
like
so?
that. I don't know. So we could do something.
I don't think Orwell will be very much in favor of a statue.
No, I don't. I can't see that either. I can't see that either. Well, Miquel, we've got to wrap it up there, I'm afraid. That was far too quick, but we can carry on talking after the cameras turn
I'll
on.
stay on.
Yeah. And I just wanted to thank you for coming today. And you're very brave, because this is the first one of
It's been a
the
pleasure.
series.
And I wish you good luck with this program.
Well, I'm going to need it, as you can see. But
it's very important.
But we'll, if we can just get a bit more English out there, and I think you people are people who've mastered English and can use it well and express yourself. You're the examples for everybody else out there who's trying to learn. So so thank you for coming, and hopefully we'll see you again.
Yeah,
another time.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for watching Going Native, and I'll see you next week. My name is Neil Stokes. Bye bye.